Hey, what's up YouTube? I'm Trent Wel-Don. Welcome back to the channel Well-Done Tanks. I've realized now that we've done a video talking about spawning mops, but I've never actually shown you how I would rather make them, and I guess my preferred way of making them. So if you've been with us for a length of time, you know that I previously made some spawning mops. I actually talked about it, and I did a video more so like discussing it rather than showing you how to make it. And I screwed up the audio in that video, so it didn't come out as well as I would like to. It didn't come out as well as I think it should have, or I would have liked it to come out as. But anyways, I will be leaving a link in the description, or at least up a card, something you can go back and check that out. It didn't do very well. But we made spawning mops using simple yarn and cork to let these float. And I talked about how I like to use them for spawning, so I am trying to breed and working on breeding numerous different types of rice fish. Now, rainbow fish are going to be another good one for this. It's any of it like an egg-laying fish that's actually going to lay up on like floating plants. Things like German blue rams, discus, where they actually lay eggs on like angelfish even, where they lay eggs on a flat surface. This won't work for. Rice fish, beautiful thing to have in there. The benefit is too, like, you don't have to keep floating plants alive. So if you have a little darker of a room, don't have a lot of light, these work really well. Now where I'm in my fish room currently, this is my laundry room. All of my tanks do not have a light over them. And I do have some floating plants, most of them, but they're not all surviving because there's no real light getting to them. So that's where something like a spawning mop comes in, because you do not have to give this any kind of nutrient to survive. Now let's get into my way of making this and why I think this is one of the better ways to make a spawning mop. So we'll go over some simple supplies you're going to need here really quick. Now I like to make them again with the simple yarn, but I like to use a fishing bobber. And here's the reason why I like to actually use this fishing bobber. Is once it floats, so just like the cork, this is gonna float it in the water, and I like it because you can unclip it. I mean seriously, I bought a package of these at Walmart for like $1.50. Yarn is really cheap. I will be leaving links down in the description below, especially in these times if you want to do some online shopping. It's free to you, it does support me. But again, I like that is that you can, after you make it, you clip it to the bobber, you drop it in your tank. Now here's the benefit of it, and this is why I like it. I've actually been moving some rice fish out of the main breeding tank into a fry tank and just moving that spawning mop. Now, you can make up like 10 different mops, put it in the main breeding tank, pull it out, unhook it from the bobber, place it in the tank you want to actually raise the eggs in, raise the fry in, take your other bobber, clip it to another spawning mop, and drop it back in the tank. So that way, it gives you a little more versatility using these bobbers, because there's actually a practice you can do. If you can actually hatch out rice fish in little tubs and then move them out to different tanks from there. And this is where that benefit would come into, is you're not going to have the water space to have a bobber holding it upright, so you can actually just lay the mop into it. That is a series I'm working on. I plan on doing an entire video dedicated to how to breed rice fish and different options you have. It's coming, but now let's actually get into what we need to make one of these spawning mops. Alright, supplies are very simple for this build. You're going to need something to wrap your yarn around. I prefer using cardboard. That's because you can actually then customize it to the length you need. So the spawning mops we're making in this video are going to go into a 10-gallon tank, and I like it where it's not touching the bottom of the tank. I've actually seen better success using it this way, where it's actually floating in mid-water column. So you're going to need something to wrap it around. That's why I like cardboard. And then you're going to need some yarn. I prefer green. It looks more natural. You can technically use whatever color you want, I guess, but I recommend using something like an acrylic yarn. It's not going to put any toxins in your water. If you want to, after you make the mop, you can fully rinse it, even soak it for a couple days in some warm water. That way it just kind of gets any of the dyes out, but I have used these straight into the tanks with no problem. Then we're going to need some scissors, and this is going to be the simple way of just cutting yarn. Now here's how easy it is to actually make these spawning mops. Take your yarn and you're going to wrap it around that cardboard, we'll say 50 to 100 times. Now what that's going to do is it's either going to make a really thick spawning mop, or it's going to make a really thin spawning mop. And you can play around with how thick, how thin, how bushy, how non-bushy, to see what your fish actually prefer. So I like to go right in the middle. I'm more of like the 50 times a guy. I've seen good success with that. You can make these massive into huge, really thick spawning mops if you want to. It depends on how many times you wrap it around. When you're done wrapping it around, just clip off the end of the yarn. And then what you're going to do is you're going to want to cut, I like to cut about a 5 to 6 inch piece. I'm not very good at tying knots, so it gives me a little more leeway. Find where you ended your yarn from wrapping it off the spool, and you're going to take that 6 inch piece we cut off, slide it underneath all of the yarn pieces on that cardboard, and tie it. You're going to tie it down to where it actually cinches all the yarn together in that spot. Then on the opposite end of where you tie it, just take your scissors and cut the yarn off the cardboard. That way now it's not a loop, it's the free-floating spawning mop, and that is it. And then you can simply just clip your bobber to it. You don't have to worry about tying in any cork pieces, nothing to do there. This is probably the easiest way to make spawning mops, and again, the most versatile way to make spawning mops. I hope this video has helped, giving you kind of a fun DIY project you can do. It is really cheap. I've already made up a couple of these, and I'm going to be using them over the cork ones I made previously. I actually prefer this method a little bit more. So I'm going to get these into my rice fish tanks, see if we can't get some eggs coming along, some fry coming along. But anyways, let me know down in the comments, how do you prefer making spawning mops? Have you used spawning mops in the past? Do you have a different method? So thank you so much for joining me. On your way out, feel free to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and we'll see you guys in the next one.